morning, everybody. It's Jane Johnson with the Briar Hill Group at Remax Camosa, and welcome to the Victoria Real Estate Show with...
Hey, everybody. Andrew Plank here. I love that you said good morning in the afternoon, but there you go. We're doing it differently today. Hey, Jen, how's it going?
Hello. Good evening.
Good evening. So it's Sunday, January 5th, but we are going to be replaying this live on our regular slot Thursday morning at 9:30 as well. But we aren't able to meet up today on Thursday, so we thought we'd get ahead of the game. Aren't we, Keeners?
Also, the stats are, pretty timely. So I think that the earlier we discuss when they happen, then people can make their plans for the remainder of the month. What do you think?
Sure thing. Yeah. Get an early start.
How has it been for December, these past 5 days for you, Andrew?
Well, I had a bunch of closing in December, so I was really busy with sort of the tail end of this job, and then I was away for the last part up in Smithers for family. But I come back. I mean, early January, I've already got an offer under contract, and buyers are out there, and my listings are getting activity as well. So things are vibrant.
Vibrant, cool. How about you, Jen?
It's gotten busy. Yeah, usually, between Christmas and New Year's, it's really quiet, but lots of inquiries with people wanting to potentially refinance some debts that they've incurred over the last few years, as well as those wanting to make a move that interest rates are coming down.
I have a question. Do you know how many people are fixed rate having to refinance this year on our COVID fixed rate people?
I don't have that quote, but I mean, when you go back about a year ago, there was a major panic in the news that all these people in 2024 going into 2025, there's a lot of renewals and they're going to have major payment shock. Mm-hmm. That hasn't been in the news as much because interest rates have come down about 1%. Right. What we do have, myself with my clients, I mean, there's the 3-year terms that we did 3 years ago, and then upcoming 5-year terms that are lots of upcoming renewals this year. That is for sure.
Are they fixed or variable?
Most of them are fixed. Of my clients anyways, are coming out of fixed rates, and those fixed rates are in the mid-2s.
Okay, wow. Interesting. Yeah. That's what I'm thinking, is that there's going to be a little sticker shock for those people for the mortgage.
Yes, there is options though, right? In the sense of it's Sunday afternoon, right? Haircuts, what are we doing?
He's actually coming to me because he's like, hang on, we're about an hour away from food time, so maybe you could feed me early. Why don't you feed me? You're sitting down, you're not doing anything important. Just go get me some food.
Okay, anyway, let's go back to the show. What's the percentage of fixed versus variable?
I don't know, but I will find out for next week. Stay tuned.
Okay, awesome. All right, so let's
Jen,
go ahead.
So with the interest rates, there'd be a lot more people hit if the interest rates hadn't come down. Do you think that the Bank of Canada would have taken any of that into consideration? The number of people that were COVID, on COVID terms, when they were considering bringing down their rates, or is that just got nothing to do with it? It's the economy, stupid.
Well, I mean, I'm not an economist, so I don't know the exact makeup of it, but they would have to consider that, right? Yeah. I mean, they don't want people turning in the keys to their homes because they can't afford it. They do monitor foreclosures and bankruptcies and that kind of thing, and those continue to remain extremely low. So people are managing. And what we did have 3 years ago, or, when we were in COVID times, is we've had this stress test rate since 2018 now, where people were qualifying at a rate of 5.25. So,
so they can technically afford it.
Technically, yes.
Nominally, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the stress test was a good idea. I think also not requiring people to requalify for their mortgage was also a good idea.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
Kind of took the pressure off. Okay, so let's go do the stats. Just remember, if you like this information, please share it with somebody who you think might be buying or selling, and please connect them to us. If
Sure.
you're looking at this on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe to Andrew's or my channel, and Jen's going to be creating a channel soon. And don't forget to comment if you have any questions. We love to hear from you, and we will get back to you. And again, share if you can. All right. So,
Excellent.
Andrew, this is from last month to this month.
Okay, so as of January 5th, the last 7 days, there were 100 properties went new listed, 55 went pending. So we've got about a 55% list to pending ratio. It's hard to calculate that one. 23% price decrease. Sorry, 23 price decreases, and 1 price increase. 7 properties came back to market. 85 sold. 203 expired, but that's really common when we have that straddling over the beginning and end of a month. And 5 properties were withdrawn. So compare that to not exactly the same week a month before, but we definitely had more activity going on in late December and early December before we got into the holiday periods. This beginning of the year, I don't think that this is representative of what we're going to be seeing in the future, just because we're moving into a busier season in general, and January 5th is still kind of the doldrums from the festive season. What do you guys think?
To me, when I saw the expired listings, I kind of laughed because it's the worst timing to expire, I think, between Christmas and New Year's, because you're going to have trouble getting in touch with people to have that discussion. So, yeah, so that's that list. New listing depending. I'm actually quite pleased with that. That shows a lot of activity. I think that's unusual for this time of year, so that's good. And the price decreases are like they're having a talk. What do you want to call it? Reality check here about what's going on with the market. That's what's happening when you see that price decrease.
Yeah, I've had some conversations lately with people, and they ask me what the market's doing. And when I talk to buyers, they say, "Oh, well, we're in a buyer's market, right?" And I talk to sellers, and they say, "We're in a seller's market, right?" I think people are kind of the two channels are not really seeing eye to eye.
It's interesting you say that because, I realize you and I, and even Jen, we were talking yesterday, we look at the market and we see what's going on all the time. And so we're enmeshed in it. And so these people are just have their own perspective based on, the blinders. So they can't see what's in front of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. But let's talk about that. We're going to discuss that today. So net unconditional sales for the month of December 2024 were 421. That's compared to 329 in December 2023. So we were up 30%. New listings were at 431. So the list to sale ratio was excellent. And that's also up from December 2023. And overall, our listings at the end of December 2024 were 2,290. So we're down and sales are up. So that says to me, we're moving to a seller's market.
Okay. And I'm also experiencing that with some sellers who are saying interest rates are going down. We expect activity to come up in the spring. We don't want to reduce our price. We're going to hold firm because we think prices are going to come meet us in where we're at.
Yeah, and I've had some sellers say to me that they want to increase the price of their homes. And I'm like, just stay where you are because, this is where we think the market is. We can't predict what's going to happen. And as we all know, like 5 years ago, everything changed on a dime.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
really frustrating conversation when someone says, we've been on market a while, but I think the market's going to get better, so let's raise our price. That is like, you got to stop and think, well, do you really want to sell? What are you thinking here? And what are your other plans? Because if you're waiting for the market to go up, are you not going to use that money for something else, like buy another home? It's just going to cost you more money to buy that other home anyway. So
Yeah, it depends on where the move is going. Like
yeah,
I have some clients who are moving to Vancouver. Vancouver's market appreciates faster than ours or before ours, so it's a predictor of where we're going, I think. So I watch that market and I see them selling here and then buying there, and it's like their dollar doesn't go as far, so
Mhm.
no, yeah,
it's a toughie.
okay. Just,
Okay. Sorry, I'm doing both things at once. Okay, Jen, what's going on with the interest rates?
Well, yeah, it's been pretty quiet over the holidays, but what we've got coming up is January 15th is when the US inflation data is released. That's key for what's going to happen with our 5-year fixed rates, as they're tied pretty closely to our Canadian bond, 5-year bond market. So we'll see what happens with that. And January 29th is when the Bank of Canada meets next to decide what they want to do with their overnight lending rate. The current prediction is that it's going to come down 1/4 percentage point, which will be great. Yeah.
keep going.
Awesome.
Keep going. I got to look at when my mortgage renews because I think it must be getting close.
Oh, you should be getting updates from me.
Okay, I'm sure I'll hear from
Yes.
from Jen. Oh, look at this graph. That's interesting.
This is total active MLS listings over the past 2 years. So 2 years ago, we were between 16 and 1,800. We peaked at in 2023, October 2023 at 2,800. And then this past year, we have gone up to over 3,400, which is where we were like 20 years ago almost. So, yep.
A lot of inventory, but it's really, really been coming down quickly.
I like this graph better because it talks about new listings and sales, and it shows to me the balance. What do you think?
Well, it's important to note. So this graph here has bars and it has lines. The line is sales, and you can get the cadence and the cycle of sales over the year from that. And then listings tend to they're related, but they're not I don't know that they're exactly they don't follow exactly in line. So it's kind of interesting to watch, the number of listings come up and the number of sales go down at different points. I'm not really seeing too much here other than in September we had in
October.
September we had the number of sales went up slightly, the number of listings went up way more. And then we kind of had in October we had the number of sales go up and the number of listings came down. So they don't always relate, but it's when you put them all together, you get this graph.
Yeah, what I like about this graph, because it tells me when as a seller is a good time. I look at the ratio of that line to the bar. When is a good time to put the house on the market? A lot of people want to put their house on the market in May because they have their house shows the best at that point. But really, when you look at the list to sale ratio there, you're not that great. It's like less than 50%, whereas a little earlier in the spring, it's easier.
You missed the peak for sales, and yet you're in the peak for the number of listings going online, and so your competition has gone way up, and yet the sales are starting to cycle down.
Yeah. What's interesting to note here is see how December 2024, our sales outpaced our listings. So this is the first time that's happened in a while. But I always say to people, if you want to get your house sold, leave your house on the market in December because it's likely to get sold. But just like you are usually at a 1-to-1 ratio, but our sales this year were quite high. Over 400.
I'll also point out, so when you look at the number of sales in say December, that's December 2023, December 2024, number of sales there was, 350 to 400 sales in December. In
Yeah.
maximum, when we're busiest in the market, let's say May 2023 and May 2024, we were up nearing 800,000 sales. Sorry, 800 sales. So yes, you have way more sales in May, but that 200 and almost 300 is not an insignificant number of sales. It's just
Mhm.
less.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
All right. So I've added a little line here. So sellers, you're talking about the balance between the buyer and seller market. So a seller's market is when you have 100 homes and 20% are selling or more, you're entering into a seller market. When you have new listings coming on and you have less than 14%, you're in a buyer's market. So balance is somewhere between there. And we've been hovering there about a year and a bit, just
Mhm.
skating along the horizon here, fairly balanced, I think. It reminds me of 2019.
Yeah, it's business as usual, real estate. It's not super, we're not having strategies around multiple offers. We're not having strategies around what to, how to get more attention on listings that are sitting there forever. We are just in a regular business market where we're trying our best just to help all sides. But it's a lot easier to make those connections if someone is doing a buy and sell in this kind of market.
Yeah.
Looking in the past and where we had that, it's only in May 2023, we were almost at 50% of the list to sale ratio. And then you go back, if you could see further back in this graph, we had a point there where we were up over 100%. In other words, the inventory was coming down faster than properties were listing.
Yeah, we were at 120%.
Yeah,
Jen?
which was just nuts.
I think it'll be interesting to see, or have you guys noticed a reluctance for sellers wanting to accept those subject to sale offers?
So, yeah, I mean, it's funny as a buyer, I met with some people yesterday, and as a buyer, they want to have a subject to sale because they want to know where they're going. But as a seller, they don't want to accept the subject to sale because they don't know how saleable the properties are. And so it's up to the listing realtor really to ascertain a few things. One is, how experienced is the realtor, and are they kind of a listing type realtor? And the other thing is are they going to price it well so it'll sell quickly? Because when you have a subject to sale offer, you're kind of taking it off the market. It's still on MLS, but a lot of realtors say, I would like to view this property if there's no accepted offer.
Yeah. You're giving control of your sale over to the buyers who have their own property to sell. And because now you're subject to them listing their home reasonably, assuming that it's going to be fairly priced, that it's going to be well marketed, and you're kind of just sitting there in a holding pattern waiting for something to happen. And if it happens, then your home is sold. There's the provision for another buyer to come in, and sort of a shotgun clause that allows other buyers still to come in for that original property and make an offer, but not everyone wants to do that. So your property was fully exposed on market once you accept a subject to sale offer. It's kind of in a bit of a gray area.
Mm-hmm. It has a caveat, and the caveat is, we have another offer and we have to get this offer bumped. And so again, it speaks to wisdom of the listing realtor, how they handle that, and whether or not you can have like 24, 48. I've even seen one 7 days notice to the first buyer, whether or not they're going to complete.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
7 days. Yeah. Interesting. That's a long time for a buyer to hold, and the second buyer to hold and wait to find out if they bought it. But
so
that's really
that's where a realtor wrote an offer on a for sale by owner.
Yeah.
So that's
So
that was
they were able to, they negotiated something very favorable to them, and the for sale by owner either wasn't sophisticated enough or understood what it was and didn't mind, and that's fine. Yeah, subject to sales. So going back to your original question, Jen, was, subject to sales in any market can be attractive to a seller that's been on market for a long, long time, is overpriced, and is getting their price because it's subject to sale. At least it should be, right?
Yeah.
In a really hot market, though, you generally don't need to wait for subject to sale because somebody else is going to come along and buy it anyway. In a really slow
Right.
market, you've got a lot more chance of getting the subject to sale over the finish line.
true. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And the other thing about the bonus of a subject to sale for a seller is they get the price they want. So if you look at price over time, if the buyer says, I'm going to come back, if this is time, the buyer, the price will likely go down. But if the buyer writes here and it's subject to sale, there's going to be less motivation for the seller.
Crushing your head. Crush you. Crush.
Less motivation for the seller to be flexible on price. Know what I'm saying? Because they go, well, I need some consideration for the fact that you're not ready actually to buy this property yet. I'm just giving you the option to buy.
Yeah.
So-
Yep. And that goes back to the point. Well, okay, now we weren't going to talk subject to sale today. There's so many subtleties to that. We'll just move on.
Okay, another time.
Yeah.
Okay, Andrew.
Okay, so this is the average single-family home price, or is it medium? This is average, right? Over
Yeah.
time. So we've got the average single-family home price over time. You can see in December 2022, it was, come on. It was 1.25 million, and it's gone up and down and up and down. And yeah, overall, if you average it out, it's been pretty steady. And right now, if I was to get out my little ruler and look across the lines here, we're at 1.3 million average price. So we're like 2 years later, we are we're $50,000 more average in 2 years.
You know what,
Not
though?
a lot of change.
To me, this is based because there's more activity happening in the core, and this is the average of the whole market. You really need to look at what's happening in your neighborhood. But I think this is affected by the prices in the core as opposed to prices on the outskirts of Greater Victoria. And I will say, looking with a client of mine yesterday who's selling and buying, we're looking at houses with suites in downtown Victoria, and we can see that there's actually not a lot for sale.
Right. So, and folks, the whole point of this is we're talking generally in these shows about more generalities and less specifics. We do get into specifics from time to time, but it may not be timely and relevant to you. So if there is something you want to know about for your particular market, then reach out to Jane or I. If there's something particular you want to know about mortgages, reach out to Jen, and we'll do our best to help you. So, yeah.
Or Andrew or me.
About mortgages? I don't think so.
I'm correcting grammar.
Oh.
I'm part of a grammar.
Sure you. Yeah.
Jane, Masters of Education, ex-teacher, grammar Nazi. Okay.
Okay. No grammar for you. Okay. The average sale price for condos, we're around 500. We're back down around 500, and it is seasonal, as you can see. It's better in the spring, and part of that is because people are buying and selling condos because of the changeover in government, the changeover in military, and also the changeover in schools. So it's a great time to sell in the spring.
This, I think our weather here and also the length of day goes into, the whole idea of, this seasonal affective disorder in winter, the shorter days, the cold, the damp. I think people have, there's an optimism premium that you pay in the spring and a pessimism cost to selling in the dead of winter.
I never thought of that. Although, you know what? I do look at viewing time and I'm like, in the winter, we can only view to about 4:30. And in the summer, we can view up till about 8 o'clock easily,
Yes,
right?
and it's a lot easier to do showings after work, and you can really see what you're buying instead of looking in the damp. This is an interesting comment from Cryptomeria. They say, I'd rather buy land than a condo.
Well, there is a saying, land doesn't rust. So,
Mhm.
and in a condo, you will be the average of the rest of the condos in your building. So depending on how other people are maintaining, you're more reliant on that. So
Yeah.
it's not a bad
So-
observation.
To get really nerdy, though, you know, when you buy a condo, you do buy a share in the common property, which includes the land that it's sitting on, unless it's a leasehold. And I would say if you need shelter and you don't want to, I mean, you don't want to live in a tent all year round, then a condo is a good thing to buy when that's what you need. But if you're looking, and it also provides income if you buy a condo. And it will help pay for itself, whereas bare land, unless there's some sort of rental system in there. So in terms of an investment, there's a lot of pros and cons to both, but I would say you want to look at your individual situation.
And if you're talking strictly land, the financing is way different than it is for a house or a condo. Right, Jen?
Yes, it's much harder.
Harder to get a mortgage on bare land than a condo, that's for sure.
Yeah. And a condo is better to buy, I think, than a mobile home, relatively in terms of price, because they
Yeah.
just appreciate more in value.
Jane Johnson's hierarchy of real estate needs, like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Like, what's the best kind of real estate to buy? Freehold, single family home, maybe, or what's the best investment? What's the worst investment? And go down from there. But I don't disagree, Cryptomeria, that like land as an investment in the right, properly thought out and properly evaluated can be great. But land with a structure on it that can create income is
Leverage.
gonna help you leverage. Yeah.
Yeah. And it'll enable you to put less money down to have a building on it. Speaking of Maslow's hierarchy of housing, Andrew, would you like to talk about townhouses?
So again, we see generally in the winter months, there's that drop in pricing, but also we know that there's less show. Like, this is a much more jagged graph, simply because there's less sales of townhouses than the other two categories of condos and single families. So this is harder to match. So but I would see overall, this is a pretty straight line again as well, because I kind of don't give a lot of credence to the time around December, January, February when I'm looking at these average pricing. And so we're pretty even keel overall. And we're still around 850 now on average price for a townhouse.
Oh, thank you, Cryptomeria. So we were shared on X, and that Langford has beautiful condos. It's true. It depends.
Yeah.
I have a great condo on
Pitch.
Lake Point with overlooking the mountain. Anyway, okay. So I'll also say that I think that this is less jagged because there has been less movement at the higher end. And so the average has been more like you're going to get the places in Gordon Head, that are kind of within the median of the range.
The meat and potato townhouses, as opposed to the premium townhouses that every once in a while a townhouse shows up and it's a $2 million townhouse, which is going to skew an average. Yeah.
Right.
And if two of them sell in a month, it skews it even more. Okay.
All right. So I went through, they don't unfortunately have this in pictographic format, but I thought this was very interesting. So these are the results of surveys to realtors. We have to fill them out. Well, we don't have to. Most realtors fill them out at the end of, we get a little survey link to the board.
Mm-hmm.
Survey says, if this was a residential property in 2024, was it new or never before occupied home, or was it previously occupied at some time. And so 9% were new. That's 291 of the 303,226 answers. Almost 90% were previously occupied, and only 1.5% were acreages. So does this jive with what you see, Jen?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, lots of people are slightly turned away. Well, the new housing starts have been down significantly as well. And the GST that people have to pay on a brand new home can be a deterrent as well.
Right.
Okay. What was the primary motive of the buyers, Andrew?
This is always interesting to, you know, what's motivating people out there, right? And right now, this is for the full year of 2024, is what this is. And the primary motivation for 26.7%, by far the largest percentage here, was to enter the housing market. So over a quarter of the buyers surveyed, or at least the agents surveyed about their buyers, said 26.7%. A large percentage were people entering the housing market. We had more people looking for a larger home than a smaller one, which kind of makes sense. Most people are kind of upsizing until they get to the point of maybe retirement and downsizing. So 14.1% wanted a larger home, whereas 8.3% wanted a smaller home. 10.4% were moving to a different neighborhood. Now, obviously, when asked these questions, we're giving the best answer we can. We don't have the choice of answering multiples. So they chose the best when they could. So somebody might have wanted a smaller home and to move to a different neighborhood. Just pointing that out. They wanted to be closer to family, 4.4%. They had a family reconfiguration. That's death, divorce, marriage, all kinds
Diamonds.
of things. Marriage, diamonds, death, divorce, and diamonds. Okay, right. What was that? 5.8%. Work-related move, 2.7%. Squinting because I can't see too well anymore. I've gotten old. Buying a second home for use by family members, 3.6%. Buying a second home for future retirement, 1.2%. We're getting into some small numbers here, but it's interesting the reasons that people buy and sell. Buying a second home for vacation use. Now that is really going to be uncommon nowadays because of restrictions on vacation and vacant homes, but 1.1%. Buying a revenue property as an investment, it was only 3.7%. That's low. That's surprisingly low to me. Buying a revenue property, and a relocation is 12.9%, and then other 5.3%. Any comments on this, you guys? What are you seeing?
So the revenue, I'm not surprised because we were downloading a lot of revenue properties because of the change in legislation around short-term rentals. So that doesn't surprise me. There were people trying to get rid of them, frankly. And the relocation doesn't surprise me either at 12.9%.
Yeah. And the new rules around capital gains are probably also cooling off the people's reasons for wanting to buy an investment property. Jen, do you want to comment anything on that?
I haven't noticed it too much. I mean, within buying an investment property, people will, is family going to be living in the property, or there's other fine print in there as well. I've really noticed that my two big ones are relocation and like first-time home buyers are the two that I've noticed a lot this year.
Interesting. And yet relocation was only 5.3%.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking that, relocation is 12.9%.
Oh, yes.
12.9, yeah.
I was thinking that this year will be fueled by first-time buyers. So when I saw this, I was like, yeah, this sort of says to me that that's kind of a good assumption.
I mean, this is not statistically relevant, but my first, contract of the year that I've written so far is with someone who's a first-time buyer.
And mine that I'm working on right now is with an investment.
Hmm.
So,
There you go.
okay. How did the buyer finance a purchase? Jen, you want to read this one over?
Yeah, this is interesting. So a conventional mortgage, meaning at least a 20% down payment, 52.1%. A high ratio mortgage, so less than 20% down payment, 9.8%. All cash, 27.2, or didn't know, 10.9. All cash, that's interesting, 27.2%.
Mm-hmm.
Again, though, I mean, these stats are what an agent has interpreted from what they believe their clients did. And they won't always know. And sometimes people write a cash offer, no conditions, and we don't know that they're back at the bank afterwards, organizing something.
But it speaks to downsizing, I think, that
Yep.
people who are right sizing, whatever you want to call it now, it speaks to the fact that they're moving from a bigger home to a smaller one, which is what you're mentioning. And then you have the first time buyers going in to those homes,
Right.
I think.
And relocating, which is, yeah, I guess they all kind of tie in.
So, I mean, relocation, when we're defining relocation, we're talking about people who are due to a move, due to work or something, coming to Victoria from, quote, overseas, whether that's Vancouver or some other center or whatever. But usually a job related move or a military transfer or something like that.
Retirement, maybe.
Relocation.
Retirement. Yeah. They're moving across they're trying to find it's a new community for them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we have one more. So survey says 9.49% of the buyers were single males. 12.64% were single females. 24.36% were a couple with no children. 26.8% were two-parent, and this actually goes with the entering into the first-time buyer. Interesting. Similar number, two-parent with children. Single parent with children was 3.9%.
Wow.
Empty nesters were 7.7%. And retirees, so 3.71% single, and couples were 6.74%. And then 150 they didn't answer.
That's really, I mean, it just shows how much, so first of all, how much being a couple versus being single, the double income really helps with the ability to purchase. And also, how you see that it's quite a significant difference between a two-parent with children and a single parent with children. Two-parent with children, 26.8%. A single parent with a child or children, 3.93. That's a very, very small number.
Very, very small.
Yeah. So that's an interesting sort of societal comment. Just looking at
I would love to get all these data points and play with them and just really see. But we can't look at that. Well, I can't see that if it was 4% had the conventional mortgage or not.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Which percent of people who said that they did a conventional mortgage were a couple with no children, for example?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you could really get some good numbers out of here. All righty. So that comes to the end of our show so far. Anything you want to add, you guys? It kind of reminds me of when I was a teacher.
I'm sitting at the back of the class, distracted and trying to get out the door. I'm waiting for the bell to ring.
Well, there's lots of positive changes that have come into play just before the holidays, December 15th. And it'll be interesting to see how that affects the spring market. One negative change that came into play January 1st is the flipping tax. So
2
that's
years
going to be,
now.
yes, yeah. So
Is it 720 days or something? So I have a client who wants to sell, and yeah, they're waiting.
after a year it gets reduced, but yeah. It's
It's crazy. Like there's a lot of people who within 2 years do resell, and it's absolutely nothing to do with flipping. They just bought a home together and realized that they don't like each other. Or they bought a home, or somebody bought a home and realized that they can't afford it, or they've had a job change, or again, some health issue. And now you got to go fight for the right to sell your home. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
You have to
Mhm.
apply to be
Yeah.
exempted.
Yeah.
That's a really good point, Andrew, because I mean, I see it all the time, you know, because when I do their mortgage and then when they come back with questions, you know, the average is 3.8 years, but honestly, between 2 and 3 years, usually people are wanting to make changes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And especially if you're making an improvement on the, let's say, a condo and reselling it, it's such a benefit to the buyer. If it's done right, like a lot of people just don't have the bandwidth to do it.
It's a
You know?
benefit to the market. Yeah, because there's a lot of buyers out there that do not have either. They can get the mortgage for a $300,000 condo, but they can't buy a $225,000 condo or $250,000 condo and fix it up
Mhm.
to get it to that $300,000 range. So they don't want that $225,000. I mean, not that I'm just using numbers for examples, but they're not going to want to do that. But somebody who comes along and does that and makes a profit, we should not be punishing that. I don't think that flipping is a bad thing because it improves the housing stock.
I always wonder when people who work in government put in these rules, because I used to work in government, and you would just they would just have a meeting and make the rule change. I'm just wondering if when they do that, if when they go to buy or sell, if they ever go, God darn it, shoot, I really
Shot myself in the foot.
What were we thinking?
Yeah, I was going to say something not so nice.
I do think that whoever is making rules should have to live within those rules as well, or really,
Yeah.
really put themselves into really think through the effect of these. So anyway,
Well, it's funny. Yesterday, working with these clients and sort of conveying, if you want to write an offer and you want to write it subject to sale, put yourself in the seller's shoes. Everybody always thinks from their own perspective, right? And you really, I think, what real estate teaches you is a bit of emotional intelligence. You got to be an empathy, don't you think?
yeah, whatever. So
Alrighty.
it occurs to me, so before we wrap this up, let's have a side conversation. There was a realtor in Vancouver who got a bunch of trouble because they put up a post, they put up a signboard. What do you call those again? Poster on the side of the highway, except it was in Yaletown. And he's been working Yaletown for the last 20 years or something. And so he's got his name and then responsible for the high prices in Yaletown for the last 25 years or something is what he said, right?
Yeah.
Helping raise prices in Yaletown. And he did that kind of as a facetious joke because he was like, he talks to a lot of people like, you realtors, you're responsible for the market going up. You're bad people and it's your fault that prices are going up because you're greedy and you're trying to help people make money. And that's not exactly the case. We are the facilitators of people's, and we just represent the buyers and sellers' desires, right? And he thought it was a joke and people would understand, but he's got so much hate mail from it. It was probably a little bit, tone deaf. But
Yeah.
we do our job to help people at the end of the day, and we don't have as much power in the market as we like to think. And all these
As
rules that are coming
other
up in the
people like to
government,
think.
as other people like to think, and as we like to think. But all these rules that are coming up for government, they think they have a lot of power and are going to have a lot of impact and effect, and they don't.
Agreed. And I think, it's funny. The biggest difference, I think, for us compared to when we started 19 years ago is that we have way more access to data now than we did before. And so everybody's looking at the same data. And so you can't, like when you see an advertisement, like I can get more money for your client because I'm going to bring in foreign buyers and they don't know the market. There's a realtor who advertises that. And I'm like, that is no longer true because everybody can see what everybody's selling for. Yes.
It's no longer true, but there is a subset of the population who believes it to be true and will get swayed by that marketing, even though that marketing is not true.
Accurate.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. True.
True. So we believe in truth in advertising as best we can, but there are some people out there who, whether they truly believe it or not, think that their systems are going to bring more people in, or their marketing is going to trade. Who knows? Everybody's got their way of doing it.
I do think, though, marketing does make a difference. I have seen how marketing can make a difference. So you definitely have to have a few key things in place now for sure to make a difference. And I think primarily what makes a huge difference is your relationship with other realtors in the community.
Mhm.
Honestly.
That's a huge one, having reputation and
Expertise.
well, not just expertise, because there's some really great experts out there that know the product, but when I see their listing and my client says I'd like to see that property, I'm like, oh no, because I know it's going to be a troublesome negotiation. It's not going to be cooperative. It's going to be combative, or they're not going to get me they're going to be really hard to reach for a showing, and I'm going to have to wait and do multiple showing requests in order to get through the property. There are things we can do to make it easier for our colleagues and makes them go, oh great, Andrew just listed a home and I've got a buyer for it, and I'm really, really looking forward to working to get them through and come to a conclusion on a sale. It doesn't mean and I'm going to really advocate for my clients, but I've also presented the property really well, and I've presented information, and I'm cooperating with my colleagues. Speaking of which,
That's
I've got something to
marketing.
get back to. but
Okay.
that's the kind of thing that makes our job and our industry work. But yeah, okay.
I totally agree with that. And I'm just going to edit sorry. Are you the Vibe Collective?
We are the Vibe
Now?
Collective. Yes, changed it.
Okay. I'm the secretary for the group.
Word Nazi, secretary. Yeah.
Teacher.
By the way, Jen came on my boot camp with other realtors. How was it?
It was wonderful. Actually, my favorite thing was doing a vision board going into 2025, and I've got it on my desktop and on my laptop, and it's great. Yeah.
Awesome.
Nice.
Yay.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. How do we reach you, Andrew?
Andrew. Okay, so yeah, it's pronounced Andrew. 250-360-6106. Email info@andrewplank.com. I am of the Vibe Collective. We are a group of like-minded realtors in Victoria. And the website for myself is andrewplank.com. The realvibe.ca is for the Real Vibe Collective. And I'm on Instagram under Plank Andrew. See you there, guys.
Are you Real Vibe Collective or Vibe Collective?
Vibe Collective. But we
Okay.
couldn't get Vibe Collective.
Okay. Jen, how do people reach you?
Yes, I'm at 250-217-4925. I'm with Dominion Lending Modern Mortgage Group. Email is jen@jenlo.ca, and my website is jenlo.ca.
Awesome. And I'm Jane Johnston. I'm with the Briar Hill Group at Remax Camosun. My email is briarhillgroup@gmail.com or jane@briarhillgroup.com. Our web is briarhillgroup.com, and you can look at these and more shows at victoriarealestateshow.com. And don't forget to follow us at Realty Teacher _Remax _Victoria or Briar Hill Group on Instagram. Alrighty, thanks everybody. Have a great week. We'll see you next week. Take care and stay safe. Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye now.
Bye.